To order at 7:04 p.m. Start off with public comments. Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Hearing no public comment, we'll close public comment. Item number 4, approve minutes from the March 4, 2014 special meeting. Can I have a motion to do so?
So moved.
Motion by Len. Second by Anne Marie. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Karen?
On page 9,
Okay.
about 2/3 of the way down, where we're discussing the Board of Condemnation,
Mm-hmm.
the representatives, they will discuss taking proactive steps with Seymour Lumber.
Lumber.
Yeah.
Not spine.
Yes. Lumbar, that's right, not the lumbar region.
They're not chiropractors.
That's it.
Gotcha.
Okay.
They're on the toes.
Other than Nicole, how many vertebrae are in the lumbar region? Who can answer that question? Mr. Schick, you know that one? How many vertebrae in the lumbar region?
Depends on how high the tower is.
That's fantastic. That's great.
Too many.
Okay, if there's no other comments.
There are 5.
There are 5, thank you. Okay, if there are no other comments or questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0, and we're off to the races. Okay, item number 5, first selectmen's report. I have a short report tonight. Presented my budget to the Board of Finance and gave them a state of the town update. I spent about an hour reviewing all of our financials, including debt service, fund balance, capital plans, and our strategy to improve our bond rating. I plan to do a very similar presentation at the public hearing for all of the residents. I attended a DECD business program announcement with Fred Masori for MPI, held by Governor Malloy and DECD Commissioner Smith, about a grant and loan for new equipment for the company. It was a very positive event for everyone. Along with Town Council Paterla, I met with some cell tower consultants to ask additional questions regarding the potential cell tower at Great Hill. I found the meeting very informative. I obtained a good deal of new information and will provide updates to the board in the coming weeks. Met with the owners of the Seymour Lumber property. The building was officially blighted last Thursday. Yesterday, information was requested and obtained for a demolition permit. I'll provide more information in the next week or so as the timelines for the demolition are established, but I expect those to be very quickly.
Can you share that?
Can we share that?
Yeah.
You
You guys
sure?
around for that?
We certainly can share that.
Be around for that.
VCOG and COG CNB negotiations are ongoing. I've been spending a lot of time over the last couple weeks with those. I was actually up in Waterbury today meeting with the mayor of Waterbury. I expect to have new ordinances for the board to discuss in the next month or two. When we create the new COG, we're going to need ordinances to do that. So we'll have all of those prepared. Rich will be working with Tom Welch, who is counsel for Valley Council of Governments. And then finally, union contract negotiations for the clerks, administrators, and Department of Public Works are ongoing. We're currently 9 months now outside of contract. We'll be starting the police union contract, I expect, by the end of the month. So with that closes the first selectmen's report. Item number 6, discussion take possible action on the fair housing resolution. Okay, you have the resolution in front of you. Whereas all persons are afforded a right to full and equal housing opportunities in the neighborhood of their choice, and whereas federal fair housing laws require that all individuals, regardless of race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, or national origin, be given equal access to all housing-related opportunities, including rental and ownership opportunities, and be allowed to make free choices regarding housing location. And whereas Connecticut Fair Housing Law requires that all individuals, regardless of race, creed, color, national origin, ancestry, sex, marital status, age, lawful source of income, familial status, learning disability, physical or mental disability, sexual orientation, or gender identity or expression, be given equal access to all housing-related opportunities, including rental and home ownership opportunities, and be allowed to make free choices regarding housing location. And whereas the town of Seymour is committed to upholding these laws and realizes that these laws must be supplemented by an affirmative statement publicly endorsing the rights of all people to full and equal housing opportunities in the neighborhood of their choice. Now be it resolved that the town of Seymour hereby endorses a fair housing policy to ensure equal opportunity for all persons to rent, purchase, obtain financing, and enjoy all other house-related services of their choice on a non-discriminatory basis as provided by state and federal law. And be it further resolved that the Chief Executive Officer of the town of Seymour or his or her designated representative is responsible for responding to and assisting any persons who allege to be victims of any illegal discriminatory housing practice in the town of Seymour, and for advising such person of the right to file a complaint with the State of Connecticut Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities, CHRO, or the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, or to seek assistance from the Connecticut Fair Housing Center, Legal Services, or other fair housing organization to protect his or her rights of equal housing opportunity, adopted by the town of Seymour on March 18th, 2014, and it would be affixed with my signature. So can I have a motion to accept the resolution as read?
So moved.
Oh, wait. Motion by Nicole, second by Al. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda, discussion, take possible action on citizens' participation plan. I'm certainly not going to read this whole thing, because this will take me about 45 minutes to read, but this is something that we need to prepare and make noticed in public for our small cities block grant program. So essentially what it does is it outlines the things that we will do to solicit input, or output I should say, from the community. So I hope everyone has had the opportunity to read through this, and just for the sake of time I won't read this entire thing. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to accept the citizens' participation plan for the town of Seymour as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Karen, second by Len. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda, discussion and take possible action on the Nutmeg Network grant. You should have some information in your packet, bless you, on a resolution of endorsement. What we're attempting to do, and you'll see a couple pieces of information. If everybody could look at the notice of intent for the grant application, would be the second page. And I just want to draw your eyes to item number 4 and item number 6. Item number 4 is complete the Nutmeg Network request form, and one of the things that it asks for is a desktop estimate, which you see that included in your packet as well. And then item number 6 is to submit a resolution by the legislative body of the municipality endorsing the Nutmeg Network connection application. So what I'm asking for tonight is to accept the resolution that I'm going to read. I'll read it and then we can have some discussion on it. The legislative body of the town of Seymour met on March 18, 2014 and adopted a resolution by a vote of, how do we do that, Rich? Because it's asking to put a vote of 7-0, or whatever the vote is. Can I just skip over that part for this part? Okay. Which endorses the Regional Performance Incentive Program proposal referenced Connecticut General Statute Section 4-124S as amended by Section 251 and 253 of Public Act 13-247. Such proposal is attached to and made part of the record. So this is the endorsement that we need to make. What this is allowing us to do is to apply for the grant to give us the opportunity to potentially link municipal services to the Nutmeg Network, which is a fiber optic system. As you can see in the estimate that is prepared, it would link the town hall to the high school, which would provide us, I guess, just better service, for lack of a better term. If we don't get the grant, we don't have to move forward with it. We can get the grant and still not move forward with it. This is just giving us the opportunity to have some options. Tony has been spending a lot of, Director of Operations, Caserta, has been spending a lot of time on this, reviewing it. He's been working with the IT Director for the Board of Ed as well, just to see how we can best fit all this. So what I'm asking for tonight is approval of the resolution that I just read.
So moved.
Motion by Len, second by, was that Nicole?
Yep.
Nicole? Any questions? And again, before we we were to move forward, I would certainly bring this back to the board and just update on everyone.
What's the time frame on this?
On the grant,
Yeah.
I would expect by summertime. You would know. Any other questions?
And will that affect the use of this equipment here?
No. It would, no. It's how the information comes in.
Okay.
Like really fast internet. I don't have the technical expertise to fully describe it, but
It's
that's,
fiber optic cable, so
Yeah.
it's like U-verse.
Yeah.
ACP U-verse is a lot faster than.
yeah, we can transport a lot more data to and from.
So Kurt, on the form, it says must be submitted no later than 12/31/2013. Is this an old form?
No, we've submitted the initial.
Oh, okay.
These are just the different steps, and if you can see,
Oh, I see.
step
the date
number
down
6.
there. I
Yep.
see you guys submitted it, right?
By March 31st,
Yep.
2014. So we're just following the different steps that were required. And you can see for number 4, we had to send in the desktop estimate as well.
Right.
So we're just following the process.
Great, thanks.
Okay, if there's no other questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda is item number 9, discussion, take possible action on state library grant for town clerk. You shall have a letter in your packets from Susan DeBarber, our town clerk, to myself. It says, I am requesting the first selectman of the Board of Selectmen to empower myself as the town clerk to execute the application and contract with the state library for a $5,000 grant. The grant will be used to upgrade our land record software system. It will bring our land record indexes back approximately 3 years from 1975. This provides easy accessible information for attorneys, title searchers, and the public. So can I have a motion to approve, and Rich, just correct me if I'm wrong on this, the Board of Selectmen empowering town clerk Susan DeBarber the ability to execute the application and grant with the state library for a $5,000 grant.
So moved.
Motion by Len, second by Paul. Is there any discussion? Let's hope that motion was okay.
Yes.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda, item number 10, discussion, take possible action on the 2014 National Day of Prayer. You have a letter in your packets. It says, Dear Mr. Miller, the National Day of Prayer will be held this year on Thursday, May 1st, 2014. This is a national holiday which will be observed across our nation. We would like to observe this day at 12 noon in front of the Seymour Town Hall. I'll be inviting churches and pastors to our town to participate. Would it be possible to have this service at Town Hall as we've had in the past? If so, I would call on you for a brief talk, and would you read a proclamation from the town of Seymour? Pastors will participate in prayers, and a message will be given appropriate for the occasion. We will need chairs, podium, and a microphone. If it rains, I would like to use the Norma Drum Room. Thank you for your cooperation in past years. Sincerely, Russell Lassou, National Day of Prayer Coordinator. The National Day of Prayer is something that goes back quite some time in Seymour. It's right around this day in May every year. I've attended 2. I know Paul's attended several as well. Karen was actually, she spoke last year as well. So I think this is certainly a good thing that we do every year. It's a nice event. And I certainly encourage everyone on the board to come and attend if they can. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion to grant Pastor Lassou's request for Thursday, May 1st, 2014 for a National Day of Prayer ceremony at Town Hall.
So moved.
Motion by Karen, second by Hal. You said it so nicely. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda, item number 11, discussion, take possible action on skate park fundraiser. So in your packet, you have a memo to the Board of Selectmen from Matthew Thompson. It says, Dear Board of Selectmen, I'm submitting this letter to ask for approval to hold 2 fundraising events at the field adjacent to the skate park. The first fundraising event would be a cow chip raffle. Raffle tickets would be sold to the public and the field would be graded off in squares and a cow would be used for the event. We're looking to do this event sometime in April or, if delayed, then June. The second event would be an all-day concert event. We would need to have a stage set up, account for parking, and we would like to have food and merchandise vending. We are looking to have this event in July. Please advise on the proper steps we would need to take in order to gain approval to start planning these events. Thank you for your time. Respectfully yours, Matthew Thompson. Okay. Let's start with the first one first, which would be the cow chip raffle.
Can I comment on
That's not.
Absolutely.
that? I'm gonna scratch that one for now, and I think, upon further thought, it'd be better just to find a farm that's willing to, use their cow and use the farm and that one I'm not putting any.
It's a good idea. man.
Yeah.
I have to say I'm a little disappointed because I really wanted to hear you explain that one.
Yeah.
Have a good time.
Oh, well, it's,
Explain it.
are you
Popular
familiar with?
Midwestern.
No, I know what it is, but I want to see how you're
Okay.
gonna pull it off in the field.
Oh,
That would've been good. Okay. Okay, and then the second one, now why don't you tell us a little bit about the concert that you have in mind?
Well, like I said, it's in its kind of first stages, so without a initial approval or a date, I haven't done much planning for it yet, but I am putting together a volunteer committee of some of the kids that want to get involved and helping plan it. I guess what I foresee is just like an all-day, I'd have to get a stage in there, so I'd have to, hire a production company that's able to move a stage into the field and set up a portable stage. I'd like to have some type of vending, food vending, merchandise vending, just to raise, help raise money at the event. Parking, I know, is an issue down there. If it's gonna draw a lot of people, I know parking is an issue.
Are you sold on having it there? Is that the only place you could have it, or
I just think
just
it-
because of some of the concerns you just brought up?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it in the committee talked about it, and I like the idea of having it there just because that's where the park is.
Mhm.
We kind of draw, use the park. Also, to have maybe some type of event, like a demo, skaters or bikers doing some kind of like demonstration show at the park in between the music. Just having it at the park, I think that just kind of makes sense to have it down there, But if it's not possible, then, we talked about maybe French Park, or another location
Right.
as a possibility.
What time frame were you looking at for during the day?
Yeah.
Like noon to like 6 or 7, kind of an all-day event.
Okay. What questions do others have?
Mine was just in regards to the June, as long as it didn't interrupt with Founder's Day, but you're not going to do the cow pie dropping thing now,
Oh,
so
right.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I know I have to talk to Bill Peck, is it?
For the parks, yeah.
Parks, just to make sure there's no conflicting dates, or if he has any issues with us actually using the field for a concert, tearing up the field at all, moving a stage in there, setting up the stage. I know there could be some concerns with it
Right.
actually being held in a field like that they use for sporting events and different events,
I mean, the only concern I would have is the space. That's my only, because if you look at, now granted, it's not as big as the Beer and Chili Fest, obviously, but,
Right.
we shut down River Street to provide parking, and that lot would fill up quickly,
Right.
is my only concern.
Mhm.
I mean, other than that, I don't necessarily have any issue at all with trying to put a concert on. I think it's a great idea.
Space, like parking-wise, you mean?
Yeah, parking and people-wise, because that space gets tight quick with
Yeah,
when cars get in.
yeah.
And I wouldn't want cars parked up and down in that area because it's dangerous, particularly on Derby Avenue with the
Yeah.
Broad Street Bridge.
Yeah.
But, if we can come up with some way around that, I wouldn't have necessarily an issue with that, assuming the music wasn't too loud, too long
Right.
for the neighbors.
Mhm.
But again, we have the Smoke in the Valley event there, that has concerts. We don't seem to really have any complaints from the residents from that music either, because it's not an all-night type thing. They know it's just gonna be a noon to 5 o'clock thing, and then the music goes off, so I think the residents are okay with that.
But still,
What-
Kurt,
Oh, no, go, please, put.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, Matt, you might want to talk to the Smoke in the Valley people, because putting on like a live concert event, even if it's from noon to 5, let's say,
Yeah.
it's a pretty big undertaking, and you got July creeping up on you pretty
Right.
quickly.
Yeah.
It's a lot to do. You have to get
Yeah.
insurance in place, you have to find somebody who will break down and
Right.
put up and break down the stage, you have to book
Then the
bands.
merchandise vending, that's
Yeah,
expensive too.
it's a big undertaking. It's
Do you
almost
have-
like a fair you're gonna have.
Do you have bands lined up already, or?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I've already put on 2 smaller events at the Lake House and Hot Tamales.
Oh, so you know how to, you're
Oh, yeah,
experienced.
yeah.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
all I'm just checking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll
that
caution you.
logistics,
Yeah.
part of it. I mean, that's, I'm not too worried about that.
It's a lot to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, I should say, putting it out at a bar is easier.
Right.
It's a bar,
Right.
you know, you're right.
You already have that
Having an
venue, it's
outdoor,
already
having an
set.
outdoor
You don't have to worry
festival.
about rain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is a big, but.
Are you dead set on having it in one place, like having maybe, I know we have that park across the street, so you have the gazebo there, maybe having the band play there, and then having a performance of them doing the skateboards across the street at the park.
Yeah, just the issue of,
The road.
yeah,
Street.
crossing the
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing I thought about, if we did have it there, and it's gonna be a younger crowd, it's a skate park, you know, kind of focusing the bands on kind of younger, you know, I've done these other ones at the bars, we brought money in, but it was like my friends' bands, you know, and it's
Yeah.
sort of like an adult crowd.
People want to go,
Huh?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Don't get
You
out
might not wanna go.
I'll
You
go.
might not.
I'll be there in a heartbeat. Are you kidding me?
Don't
Like you
do
think
it.
I'll go.
But I'm hoping maybe, if that's the case,
Just kidding.
yeah, I know. Maybe a lot of the kids would get dropped off by their parents, you know, so there wouldn't be as
Yeah.
much.
Parking
traffic,
problem,
You know,
yeah.
parking overflow,
Good point.
or at least encourage that maybe.
So how many people would you expect?
You know, I mean, I talked with there's one kid, Kyle, I don't know his last name, I just recently reached out to him, he's about 19, he works at the Oakdale now. He's kind of my inside connection to a lot of the younger bands,
Mm-hmm.
but I just think between, you know, just the if we get, say, 5 or 6 bands booked, you know,
Be a lot.
yeah, you know, that's gonna draw a lot of people, the skate park's gonna draw a lot of people, just the kids spread. I was figuring about 200, 300 people maybe,
Mhm.
you know, I mean, this is thinking big, you know, we could raise a good chunk of money for them.
Obviously, no alcohol.
No
Right.
alcohol, no alcohol served, no alcohol allowed. That's the other thing too, there'd probably have to be a cop, who's directing traffic or.
Yeah, you need
multiple
police,
people.
Yeah, you're gonna need to
police and fire.
have security of some kind.
Yeah.
What concerns would you have, Mr. Paterno?
Well, make sure proper insurance is in place
Make sure Al doesn't get up this.
and to coordinate with the public safety officials.
Assuming all that is met, do you have any reservations? I mean, other than, parking and some other logistical things, from a legal standpoint.
Well, we're assuming insurance is in place, we're assuming we have an adequate number of police officers, we're assuming sometimes they have standby ambulances, we're assuming that all those things are done. You know, municipalities do things like this from time to time, and it works from time to time. So, the devil's in the details, so someone should be, I would make a recommendation that someone serve as a point person.
Well, that's what I was going to say, Matt, if you could, we meet again the first Tuesday in April.
April 1st.
April 1st, imagine that. So if you, in the next 2 weeks, if you can meet with Tony Caserta, who's the Director of Operations, and go through a lot of that with the insurance, find out what you would need for police presence, fire presence, if there's a need for a standby ambulance, and let's get all that. A good understanding that Rory will help you
Parking and
as
traffic.
well, and then we can talk about parking and things like that, and if we can get all those things tied up, which I think we should probably be able to have that discussion in 2 weeks without a problem, we can bring it back in front of this board, and if that, all that's met, and if everybody's comfortable, then we can give you the tentative go forward,
Yeah, that's great.
and then at that point, you can start rounding things up, and we'll just kind of see how it goes from there.
Now look into it, because single day event insurance for something like this, sometimes it can get really pricey.
But he may be able to piggyback off the town's coverage.
Because it's a
Yeah,
town-sponsored event.
yeah, and it's not, the cost is very inexpensive compared to what you pay if you went out on your own. But there is going to be costs associated with police
Yeah.
and things like that, so.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to, you know, even if the date is loose now, if I can push it to August, September, you know, it's a possibility too.
I don't think that would be an issue, Paul.
Sure, yeah, I've actually scheduled a special meeting for the skate park maybe Thursday night, and one of the things on the agenda is these fundraising. So, as you said, we could probably list a few things that he really needs to check on to, as we came up with here, that we may come up with some more there. Matt's been offering to do this on his own, really take this on himself. He, like you said, he did arrange the other things, fundraisers we have with different bands. He got them to do it at little or no cost, which was pretty good, and that's what he's aiming for again. So, you know, that'll help make it work. We get the bands to volunteer the services. So.
I mean, I know that the skate park is a nice draw, and I get that, but maybe you'd want to consider like a Villa Bianca type place.
Yeah.
Because that might alleviate some of the costs of police and ambulance and things
Yeah.
like that, and maybe we can help with.
I think
Some
Shelton
of those
does things
vendors.
on the green too, in Huntington.
Yeah, that'd be great.
They do.
So, I mean, yeah, see what you can come up with, and then we can kind of kick some ideas around to see what, particularly, you know, if you're not hard set on July, and they can go out to August or September, that gives us a little bit more planning time,
Yeah.
then I certainly don't think it would be a bad idea. I mean, in general, I think it would be a good thing. It might be great for the kids, draw a little awareness for the skate park, and
Yeah,
raise a little money.
Ultimately, it'd be nice to see an annual thing too. I think that's kind of what I thought of the skate park area, you know, to kind of, you know, if we tag it and get a name like Smoke in the Valley, make
Mhm.
sure that people know what that's about. It has a draw, it has its own draw. You know, we do something every year out at the skate park. It'd be a good source of annual income for the committee.
I mean, to Al's point, I don't know if you know Matt Brunson.
Yep, I know Matt.
I would touch base with Matt, because Matt has some other ideas.
Yeah,
Maybe you can piggyback with him
absolutely.
and kind of work together on something
Yeah, he'd be
collaboratively
a
that might,
Good person to get in touch with, because they have a professional marketing company that helps them with
Right,
the
yeah.
taste in Smoke in the Valley.
Yeah.
That's no joke. That's a
They
high-end
get-
operation.
They get free beer for it. You're not gonna want skateboards from us, you know?
yeah, that's right.
But yeah, no, you're right. I do know Matt.
Yeah.
I should reach out to him.
Okay, so we won't take any action tonight, but
I'll get
maybe we
back.
can work with, obviously the committee's gonna meet, and if you can work with Rory and talk to Matt, talk to Tony,
Yeah.
kind of get all the ducks in a row, and then come back for our next meeting in April,
Okay.
and then we can see where you stand and then make some decisions at that point.
Thank you.
But thank you for offering to take this on us.
Yeah, no,
I
thank
think it's a good thing.
Good idea, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is item number 12. Discussion and take possible action on uses of LOCIP funds for purchase of cold patch by the Department of Public Works. You have a letter in your packet from Dennis Roseman, Director of Public Works, to myself. The Seymour Public Works Department is requesting the Board of Selectmen to authorize $4,800 in local investment program money to purchase 40 tons of cold patch to repair potholes throughout the town. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the use of LOCIP to purchase 40 tons of cold patch in the amount of $4,800?
So moved.
Motion by Len, second by Nicole. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I was just curious if that's enough. We have a lot of potholes.
For the time being, yes. Yes, we have a ton of potholes. So, I mean, 40 tons is a lot, but not as much as you think.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I know it goes quickly.
Yeah.
But I
But
remember
again,
hearing
cold
about
patch does not hold as well as the hot patch,
Mhm.
so you don't want to use too much cold patch because it ends up coming up. So this
Okay.
is more for roads, I don't want to say emergency repair, but roads that are in desperate need that can't wait until, you know.
Hot patch is ready.
Yeah,
And
May
now
and June.
those factories are coming from.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda is item number 13, discussion on veterans tax exemption. This is more for informational purposes to start. There's a lot of work that we're going to have to do, but I wanted to introduce this just to see what the board's pleasure was. If the board has interest in moving forward with this, then Rory and I are going to dig into this a little bit more. If the board does not, then we will just let it go. I was approached by a resident in town about Senate Bill 383, and I believe Rich made some copies.
Yeah, it has actually been, it was beyond the Senate bill, it's been passed, it's actually part of section 12-81G of the Connecticut General Statutes, it's 81GB.
In summary, what this would allow us to do, and Rich, please jump in at any time, is to provide 100% tax abatement for veterans who are 100% disabled. You can read, obviously, the information that Rich has passed out, which is the law itself. In speaking with some folks up in Hartford, Representative Conroy, Senator Kane, and Senator Kelly, while the law is in place now, the mechanism to fund the communities back for abatements is not. So So there's still some work that needs to be done on the legislative end.
If I may, it's a little bit more complicated than that. It's actually, this provides, there's a base exemption in 12-81 of the Connecticut General Statutes, Section 20, 12, which is somewhat large in terms of text. And what this does for a veteran who's 100% disabled, it basically provides that an additional exemption, 3 times the amount of the exemption provided for such person in subdivision 20 of section 1281. So it's like a multiplier. So I haven't quite done the math to figure out what that means. As Kurt said, it's 100% disability and you get a 3-time exemption, basically.
And the money's designed to be reimbursed by the state. So if everyone is comfortable with the general idea of the program, then I think we need to start moving forward on it and examining it a little bit more. One of the concerns I have, I know it was voiced by Len as well, is the state is famous for starting these programs in which they fund the municipalities, and then 6, 7, 10 years down the road, the funding stops. The pilot program is a perfect example that Len brought up. So I think we need to have a good understanding of what we're getting ourselves into before we take the plunge, because I think we have to go in with a full understanding that there's a strong chance that funding from the state will stop at some point down the road.
And this would apply to widows,
It could be passed through to the widows or widowers.
That's something I'd take a look at, but in addition, there's income criteria on it as well.
And they'd have to apply for and things like that. I just asked the assessor quickly to let us know. Their records indicate we have about 100% disabled veterans or their spouses who are currently receiving some form of benefit. And then if you go through, there's certainly a vast majority of disabled veterans as well. With everything that's currently going on, unfortunately, I would expect that number to increase over the years. I think it is a good thing that we can do for the men and women who risk their lives for our country to try to assist them with some type of additional tax abatement if we can. But again, we need to have a full understanding of what we're undertaking. So I wanted to provide, Rory put together this just kind of quick notes just to give everybody an idea of what we're looking at. And then if we're comfortable, what I'd ask is the board's consensus to start to slowly move forward with this. I can work with Rory and Rich to kind of unravel this. We can work with our state delegation as well and come back with something a little bit more concrete. I would expect it's going to take us a little bit of time to unravel and to understand this. Maybe we'd have something for the summertime. But I think it's something that's certainly worth exploring and looking into. It is my understanding that no other town in Connecticut, no other city or town in Connecticut has taken on this as of yet. So Seymour could be the first to do something like that. So, Len?
Yeah, just obviously you voiced my big concern with it, which is that obviously the state likes to promise a lot and then suddenly the funding dries up or it drops to 20% or whatever the case may be on a year-to-year basis. I guess my question might be more for Rich than anybody, but you can obviously answer it if you can. In adopting something like this, should we move forward down the road, would we be able to put in some type of a provision that would protect us should the state suddenly decide, well, this year we're not going to fund the veterans' tax exemptions? Would that be acceptable, or would we have to follow whatever OPM tells us we have to follow?
I want to think about that. I haven't seen that. What I've seen is a municipality opt out by repealing an ordinance. You could always repeal it. If you adopt it by ordinance, you could repeal the ordinance. Mm-hmm. That's certainly within your capabilities and powers. No one for it. This is an opt-in. You could get out by doing that. As for OPM, that's one of the things Kurt and I were talking. They haven't quite figured out how to implement it yet. I think it was effective October 1, so it's relatively recent.
Well, I mean, my concern, I guess, with regard to opting out, it could be a great program that really benefits our veterans here in Seymour. If there's only 20 of them, I'd love to do whatever I could to help them out. The last thing I'd want to do is adopt something and then the state suddenly decides to, as I said, stop the funding for, however many years, but the program still exists, so they could refund it. Put the funding back in place at any given point. If we were to repeal an ordinance, would we then have to turn around and re-adopt it and go through the cycle, or would there be could we put something in place that would basically allow us to stall it? Basically what I'm saying is if we could do that, I think that would make the most sense from my perspective, where we can kind of, throw the brakes on that particular year, and then when the funding returns.
Put it on hold if the state
Exactly.
funding is suddenly unavailable.
Exactly.
Rich, what notice would the state give if the funding wasn't available? I'd worry about notice,
Well,
because
the
you might be
only-
so far down the road, and then they say we're not gonna have the funding, and now we're
The only
6 months into the fiscal year.
recent example that comes to mind, and Len, you may recall this, when the state chose not to fully fund the manufacturing, exemption, the manufacturer's exemption, which was a state program where the state paid municipalities. It was for the purpose of encouraging manufacturing, and at a certain point, given fiscal constraints, I think that was dialed back. And that was a bit of a shock to some communities that were relying upon that. I'm not aware of, and that doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but I can't think of an instance where they provided exemptions to veterans and others and set up this calls for regulations that haven't been adopted yet by OPM, things like that. I'm not aware of an instance there where the state has dialed back funding. The most recent, I think, is the manufacturing exemption, right? I can't think of
That
anything.
sounds about right.
Schools,
Yeah.
colleges?
I don't know about
Years
that
ago,
one, Frank. Maybe years ago. That's,
Yeah, they gave $5,000 to fund, and they were going to fund it for ever and ever, and they never funded, they never paid anything.
yeah, that's one I'm not aware of. In terms of the state and manufacturer's exemption, is the only recent example that I can think of. And I don't think I haven't seen it with respect to
How did
veterans.
that get resolved? How was that resolved? Or were just municipalities left holding the bag with it?
With the manufacturing exemption?
Yeah.
We're just left holding the bag.
Yeah, nice.
Instead of holding your revenue.
Great.
This isn't a huge chunk of money
Right,
that we're talking
right.
about, but nevertheless, it's good to cover ourselves if we possibly can.
Well, it says you have to reapply every 2 years, right? Is
Yeah.
that
Well, I just don't want to adopt something that's not sustainable that benefits the veterans either. So let's look at their perspective. We're supposed to be doing it to
the-
assist
Can we
them.
wait on adopting it yet?
Oh, absolutely.
Do we have
Oh,
to
yeah,
adopt it?
I'm not asking to adopt it today in any stretch of
Right.
the I'm just,
Yeah, I know.
if the
Just talking.
consensus is that we all think this is a good program and we should look
Yeah,
into
let's
it,
look into it.
then we'll start the
Let's
process.
Absolutely.
One of the things that we can do is we can get a calculation of what the exemption would be for these folks, and then we could build it into the budget a way to truly fund it, self-fund it over a 10-year period. So if the state decides they want to opt out of it, we can do that. So we can just put a small amount in each year. It would more than likely fall to the bottom line, go to fund balance. But if the state were to pull back, we would have money that we could earmark towards this. If it's not used each year because the state pays, it falls to the bottom line. If not, the money's in there. I would tend to think that this is going to be north of 100,000. So it's about a tenth of a mil on that ballpark. So depending on how high it gets. So, I mean, with 20 people. So, and again, we have to be prepared for those numbers to increase. I think we might see more 100% disabled veterans coming along with everything that's going on. Today, I think it just might become more prevalent than it has been. So if everyone's comfortable, unless anybody has any strong reservations, Rory, myself, and Rich will start the process on this to see what we come back with, and we'll give periodic updates over the next month or two, just to let you know where we stand. And then we'll take it slowly, one step at a time, until we determine what the best course of action is. Everybody's okay with that?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay. Item number 14, executive session. We have one thing on there, which is a discussion about Primrose. The other is something that Rich would like to add, so I'd like to make a motion to add to executive session.
Pending litigation, and the folks that would go into the executive session would be the Board of Selectmen and myself. On this one, Karen would have a conflict because the attorney on the other side is Fran Teodosio, and it involves the Town of Seymour versus Vista Gorge LLC and Charlanco LLC.
Okay, so can I have a motion to add Vista Gorge LLC versus the Town of Seymour to the agenda under executive session, item number 14?
So moved.
Motion by Nicole, second by Al. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I think I'm going to need a public session when we come out of that.
Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda is item number 14, executive session, in which we will discuss Primrose, and we will also discuss Vista George LLC versus the Town of Seymour. We're going to invite Town Council Paterla to join us in executive session. We will discuss Primrose first, and then we will discuss Vista George LLC versus the Town of Seymour. At that point, we will excuse Selectwoman Stanek to step outside. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session at 7:45 p.m.
So moved.
Motion by Len, second by Nicole. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. At this point, we'll call the meeting back to order at 8:14 p.m. and state that no actions or motions were taken in executive session. I'd like to make a motion to add to the agenda discussion and possible action to approve a settlement of pending litigation between the Town of Seymour and Vista Gorge LLC and Charlanco LLC in accordance with Town Council recommendations.
So moved.
Motion by Len, second by Nicole. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda, discussion.
Should I abstain?
Kurt, one.
I'm sure Karen's
One abstain.
abstaining.
Well, she can abstain and add it to the agenda, right? That's all we're doing, is adding it to the agenda.
I think she'll probably abstain on everything.
Okay. Okay, so note Karen's, Selectwoman Stanek's abstention.
Yeah.
Thank you, sorry about that, Karen.
That's all right.
I just get that one sometimes and forget.
That's okay.
Next item on the agenda, discussion and take possible action on a motion to approve a settlement of the pending litigation between the Town of Seymour and Vista Gorge LLC and Charlanco LLC in accordance with Town Council recommendations.
So moved.
Motion by Len, second by Nicole. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Motion passes 6-0-1 and notes Selectwoman Stanek's abstention. Thank you very much, everyone. Next item on the agenda, item number 15, appointments. We have several appointments for tonight. All these appointments will become effective on March 25th, 2014. These are the two boards that were created by ordinance at our last meeting, Friends of Broad Street Park and also the Strategic Planning Committee. The ordinances become official on the 25th of March, so these appointments will take effect at the same time. First appointment is Al Yagavane, Friends of Broad Street Park Committee. It's an appointment. It's a 2-year term. It expires March 18th, 2016.
So moved.
Motion by Al, second by Nicole. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. William Wilkin Jr., Friends of Broad Street Park Committee. It's a new appointment. A 2-year term. Expires 3/18/2016.
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Karen, second by Len. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Sandy Cass, Friends of Broad Street Park Committee. It's an appointment. 2-year term expires on 3/18/2016.
So moved.
Motion by Nicole, second by Anne Marie. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Tom Leveranchek, Friends of the Broad Street Park Committee. It's a new appointment. It's a 2-year term. It expires March 18th, 2016.
So moved.
Motion by Len, second by Al. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Melissa Gerard, Friends of the Broad Street Park Committee. It's a new appointment. is a 2-year term. It expires March 18th, 2016. Motion by Nicole, second by Len. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Beverly Kennedy, Friends of the Broad Street Park Committee. It's a new appointment. It's a 2-year term. It expires March 18th, 2016.
So moved.
Motion by Len, second by Al. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Mike Horrible, Friends of the Broad Street Park Committee. It's a new appointment, a 2-year term. It expires March 18th, 2016.
So moved.
Motion by Nicole, second by Paul. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Trish Danka, Strategic Planning Committee. It's a new appointment. It's a 2-year term. It expires March 18th, 2016.
So moved.
Motion by Len,
Second.
second by Paul. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Jen Maggery, Strategic Planning Committee. It's a new appointment. It's a 2-year term. It expires, a 1-year term. I apologize. It expires March 18th, 2015, because we have to stagger the terms.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Len, second by Al. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Don Smith, Strategic Planning Committee. It's a new appointment. It's a 2-year term. It expires March 18th, 2016.
So moved.
Motion by Nicole, second by Anne Marie. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Bruce Baker, Strategic Planning Committee. It's a new appointment for a 1-year term. Expires March 18th, 2015.
So moved.
Motion by Nicole, second by Len. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Kathy Verlick, Strategic Planning Committee. It's a new appointment. It's a 2-year term. It expires March 18th, 2016.
So
Motion by Nicole,
Second.
by Len. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Jeff Dascherschlager, Jeff's going to be Megs, I just butchered his name, Strategic Planning Committee. It's a new appointment. It is a 1-year term. It expires March 18th, 2015.
So moved.
Motion by Anne Marie, second by Nicole. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0.
I'd just like to say that when I was first elected to this board, I had a mission to clean up the blighted properties in this town, especially the Shell Station, which we've done, and Seymour Lumber, most especially Seymour Lumber, and other properties that are not occupied any longer. And I'm very happy to see progress on those matters.
Yeah, the Board of Condemnation met, came up with some recommendations. We moved forward with blight. The signs were hung, I wanted to speak, on the property on Thursday. Mr. Koch was in to see me yesterday. We had a very long discussion about it. Later that afternoon, he came in with a gentleman who's going to do the demolition of the building. They requested the necessary paperwork and are taking the appropriate steps. I would expect the building to be down shortly. He is still under the confines of the blight ordinance. He has a certain amount of time, as we all know, to remediate the situation. If he's taking appropriate action and Mike is satisfied with that, then he can extend the time. If not, then the fines go all the way back to day one. Mr. Koch's, what the fine is $100 a day. So, that'd be opposite.
Okay, and I want to say publicly, I agree. I wish the cell phone tower would go away. I'm sorry at the last meeting I didn't make a motion, just deny the application.
Can I answer that question now? Why we would want to do something like that?
You're going to have the opportunity to comment. You can say it in your comment.
Well, I can respond directly back to her.
You don't want to turn your selectmen's comments into a debate on a matter that's not on the agenda.
We said 2 weeks ago, too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I
I
think
think I
that
recall saying that.
that's an important question
Right,
Um,
under your comments.
to answer. Okay, so I'll talk to myself during my comments out loud, and I'll address that, because that's a very good question. And that's one, in the conversations that Rich and I had, those are the questions that we asked to get information.
And I thought at our last meeting, we asked the Board of Police Commissioners.
Yeah, we thought a little bit more about that, and I'm not sure that's a precedent we really want to set. That's an elected board that by charter is designed to make that decision. So if we open that door, we're going to be bringing in the Board of Finance for every decision they make, and the Board of Education for every decision that they make. And I really don't believe that's our place, to be quite honest with you. I mean, if questions or concerns need to be raised, I think it should be brought directly to them. I mean, if you want to call in an employee, if you want to call in the chief of police to ask those questions, I don't have a problem with. If you want to call in the recreation director or an appointed board that we appoint, I have no problem with that. But I don't think it's our place to be demanding answers from a group that is designed by charter to make those decisions. That's my personal opinion. So I did not bring them forward. Anything else? Paul?
Okay, couple things. I mentioned to you last meeting about planning and zoning commission, because Jim Baldwin was elected and wasn't able to take it.
We appointed that person.
Who?
Who's the person that we appointed to fill Jim's spot? Yeah, his name. Joseph Zeal? That appointment was made.
I thought you told me that Steve didn't give you a name.
He didn't give me that, no.
I mean, we had a person that was interested that Steve was supposed to present.
He did not present us tonight. No. And that name came from the members themselves. Jim Baldwin was one of the people who recommended it. So,
And that was a while ago that he
yeah,
appointed.
and that appointment was made by this board.
Because Steve brought me a name and said generally somebody he was interested in being on a board. But that vacancy was filled.
Okay. I wasn't aware that someone, if you had filled that. What's the person's name?
Joseph Zeal, Z-I-E-H-L.
Okay.
He's an attorney.
Okay, and second, I just happened to come across, well, actually, the person came into the store, where Quanah Leonard came in the store. Quanah is no longer working for the Republican American. She has been hired by the town of Enfield to be a police officer, so she's going to be going to the police academy. So she said to say, give her, goodbyes to everybody in town. She apologizes for not being able to come by. She wished she would have had time to say goodbye, but she starts the academy Friday.
I like Quanah too.
I always liked Juana. She's my second favorite reporter.
Yeah.
Behind Eugene Driscoll. Thank you. Yep. Nicole?
I was able to attend the Seymour High School musical Seussical Junior on Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock, and it was put on by the music department, and they did a tremendous job with this musical. It's the first time, I don't know how many years it's been since the music department has put on a musical, but it was complete. I think every student was a freshman. So it was just, it was a great thing to see, and they really did a great job.
Good.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Al?
I'm also happy to hear that the Seymour lumber property has been officially blighted, and that process is gaining speed. It's time to clean that space up. So I agree with Karen there. And other than that, I don't have anything else.
Thank you. Emery?
I have a lot. It's a
Farewell.
rarity. I know. Okay, first of all, the stop sign at the rotary between Chupta and Tomlinson, it needs to be replaced. It is like all faded out. I didn't realize it was a stop sign there. I'm talking to you because you're on the board of public works.
We're already writing it down. We'll put a request in tomorrow.
What? Am I wrong?
You can tell Roy. Roy will take care of it.
Don't worry.
Rory. Well, I was addressed by, I saw it and almost ran it, and I wanted to take it, and then somebody else told me about it. I'd asked at the last meeting about the fire chiefs and the fire commissioners coming to our meeting to explain the tax abatement. Do you think that's possible?
We could ask the fire commissioners to come.
Okay, great. I understand
If
that.
we appoint them.
We appoint them. Okay. I understand that we called Con OSHA in to do a volunteer audit
Correct.
of our buildings, our town buildings.
Correct, that's been going on for 3 years? 4 years? You started that.
Long time.
Yeah.
Just at the end, yeah, right.
Yeah, probably 4 years now.
Can I review the findings and the compliance schedule to make sure we are in compliance with everything?
Yes, Paul Wedowitz handles our OSHA compliance issues. So if you'd like to make the, actually, Rory, can you make a request that Paul provide that information to Anne Marie?
Okay, and also, just as a municipality, we need to ensure that we are following all state, federal, and government regulations pertaining to health, safety, and the environment. So
Are there any in particular you're referring to?
I would like to see if we need to meet the requirements of the SPCC, Spill Prevention and Control Measure Plans, as well as the Rice Knee Shop for generators, emergency generators, make sure we're tracking hours for that.
Okay.
Okay, as long as our stormwater pollution plan that we have for the landfill.
I could speak to the stormwater. I know that that's addressed by town engineer.
Okay.
As for the other two, I'd have to look into those because I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Also, it brought to my attention, someone was searching through town minutes. It brought to my attention, and I brought it to Rory's attention, and he couldn't find it either, that there was a couple of months of meetings missing in different directories. Can we just,
Which boards? Okay. The Board of Fire Chiefs. We can just look into what we have.
well, Rory did, and he says that he couldn't find them.
They weren't.
They weren't submitted?
Yeah, from
February.
2014, if I see anything missing, I check the town clerks. And if they don't have a lot of them.
Can we get a list of outstanding?
For 2014.
Please.
Also, I received a couple phone calls regarding said tower. Majority of them were the negative, but one of them was two irate people who live over in that area, so that they received literature in their mailbox on town letterhead, and it wasn't mailed, it was just placed in their mailbox. I don't know if that's true, but I don't know. I told them that they really should call the post office on something like that.
Which town entity? Which town entity?
Fire department.
I'll address that with the fire department. They can't do that.
I didn't receive one, so I can't comment to that, but I don't live in that part of the town.
Okay. Can I talk to you after this about that, please? Yeah, that's an issue.
I think that's all I had.
Okay.
I can speak to the postal part.
I can speak as environmental.
That's not a good one.
So could Rich.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Anne Marie. Len?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the very first meeting of the Livable Communities Committee met last week. I'm very happy to say we elected a chair, and it seems to me that the committee's got a lot of good things that we're going to try to do for the town of Seymour, so I'm excited to be a part of that. And I want to thank the members for appointing me as a member, and to wish Joe Luciano, who is the new chair, all the best in his endeavor. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Mr. Luciano and I will be meeting on Thursday just to go through agendas and minutes and things to make sure that he's comfortable. Rory has graciously volunteered to assist Mr. Luciano, or I should say I volunteered Rory to assist Mr. Luciano. So we're going to make sure that this board has a good positive impact. To concur with Len, I think we had a really good meeting on Thursday night. It's a good group of people that truly want to see this be successful. So for my comments, I'll start with Mr. Flynn. The Valley mayors have been working to put together an emergency management plan. We've been working on a valley-wide sheltering system. It's been ongoing for probably about 17 or 18 months now. I'm going to be honest, I've never heard any mention of dehydrated food or anything like that, so I can certainly bring that up and see where that conversation would go. I can't give you any more information than that, because that's really all I have. But I can certainly bring that up. That's not a problem. And then with regards to Karen's question, in Rich, say something that I shouldn't, about just flat out denying the tower.
Maybe if it would prove helpful, let me give everyone a little bit of background on that. The Connecticut Siting Council controls the siting of cell towers. The only reason the town of Seymour is involved in this is because there's a proposal to use a municipally owned property. You're involved in it as a municipal property owner, not because, and other than that, you don't control the siting of towers. And it's pretty routine for, if there's a need in a particular area in a municipality, the siting council encourages tower companies and providers to seek to site it on municipally owned property. If a municipality, so they're asked that. That is a routine question that is asked by the Connecticut Siting Council. If a tower operator were to go to the siting council because they want to put the cell tower on a private owner's property, 2 doors down, just hypothetically, from the fire station, that issue, that particular property, they're going to be asked whether they went to Seymour first. And the control of the siting isn't going to be local. It's not local control over the siting of cell towers on private property. So the issue is a lot more complex than has been discussed in terms of whether a cell tower will end up in that particular part of town. Was that what you were going to say?
Very similar, yes. Not quite as obvious. So Karen, does that answer your question as to why at this point we just...
So if we say no, in other words, they can go to someone else.
They can go private.
The next door neighbor.
And then they can take that application to the Connecticut Siting Council.
And then
So
that person
this
can
is
put it
not
on their-
a simple issue.
And that person can put it in their backyard.
This is not a
And they
simple
don't have to
issue.
go to any hearing or anything like that.
So the siting council trumps.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
If we say no.
If we
Stay
say no,
for
they'll
a
go
little.
private.
So if they go private, they can actually put it in whose ever backyard back there who wants to get the money.
Probably can't be impulsive.
That's why we can't say no.
Well,
We could strongly consider it for a while.
let me just amplify the selectman's comments and say the administration is considering all alternatives to try to deal with some of the issues that have been raised by the neighbors and by the fire company. And it's going to take a while to be able to address all of it. But we're working on it. Bill?
Rich and I think we had a very good meeting on last week.
Yeah.
Just answering a lot of questions, clearing up some concerns, things like that. And we'll roll that information out as the conversations continue. Again, this is just not something we're jumping into. If we're going to make this decision, we need to make it the right way, whether it's up or down. It needs to be made with the right decision because there's ramifications to both approving it and denying it. And we need to make sure we're fully aware of what those ramifications are. And the last thing we want to do is lose control of the situation, which we could.
And I will speak specifically. There's a cell tower down the street from my house, around the corner on James Farms Road, that did not end up getting sited on school property further down the street. It's on a private property owner's house. A tower.
So we want to be careful. So it's better he answered that than I. Okay, with that, I have no other comments. So I'll entertain a motion to
I make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn. Second.
Motion by Anne Marie, second by Nicole. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Close the meeting at 8:41 p.m.